So one of the amazing things about our civilization is that we always find ways to adapt to novel situations. And perhaps the most obvious adaptation that we've made in academia is the use of Zoom to facilitate many of the interactions that we need to have with our colleagues. Now, this brings a really interesting experiment because for many of us, Zoom was something that a few weeks ago we have never even heard, let alone use. So the experiment is that once the pandemic is over, will Zoom become a pervasive tool used in academia, or will it remain something that is an antiquity or a relic from the pandemic that we tell our kids about? Today we're going to be talking about some of the pros and cons that I've realized using Zoom over the last 2 weeks, and give you my predictions about if I think Zoom is here to stay or if it's something that's going to be discarded in weeks and months to come. So let's go look at some of the pros that really Zoom has brought into my own career as I try to navigate through this pandemic. And the first one is efficiency. The number of meetings that a scientist or a physician needs to go to on a day-to-day basis is astronomical. And we learn so much from these meetings and interactions, but one of the downsides is the commute time that is required to go to these various meetings on a campus as large as the University of Toronto. And so one particular meeting that may be 1 hour is something that you'd have to budget 1.5 or maybe even 2 hours into your day. And really Zoom has transformed that for me because a 1 hour meeting is a 1 hour slot in my calendar. And I think that type of efficiency is something that's going to really transform the way that we communicate. Imagine being able to attend twice as many seminars, twice as many committee meetings. I think that's really going to change how efficient and how much learning we can do on a day-to-day basis. Second is really multitasking. I'm not gonna lie, I've listened to some seminars this week working from home while also being on a treadmill. And I think that type of ability to multitask is really transformational as society tries to find a balance and answer for how can humans balance their very, very busy work schedules with other things such as taking care of their health, their family, parenting. And I think the ability for Zoom to allow academics to multitask while preparing dinner for their family or taking care of their health is something that is going to provide an answer to a question that has been difficult to address for over a decade that's not going away. The third, I think, positive that I can see this having an impact on is the cross-pollination that we have to do with academics and institutes outside of our own city. In science, it's so important to talk to scientists from different cities, from different institutes, to get different perspectives of how research should be done and can be done. And that usually involves going to scientific conferences and inviting speakers to travel to come to your own institute to talk about their work and their ideas. Now, this is very, very expensive for both the hosts and the traveling scientist, and it also limits the number of times this can be done because of these financial and time restraints. As a new PI, I would love to send my students to multiple meetings a year, but when you factor in expensive registration fees, hotel costs, travel costs, it's just something that you can't do at scale. And so imagine now conferences adopt a reduced registration fee for someone willing to listen to the plenary talks and keynote speakers through a Zoom sort of platform. I think that could be transformational for meetings and for allowing students to really benefit from research being done throughout the world. I think there's also a lot of positives that speakers can benefit from this. When you're invited to give a talk, that's a really important thing for your career because it really shows that people outside your institute recognize you as a leader in the field. Now, you have to balance that with your local commitments, helping taking care of of your family members, of your children, of your parents, the time it takes to travel. While you're traveling, your work is still building up at home. So an invitation to give a talk, while can benefit your career, puts a lot of huge burden on your day-to-day life. And I think, imagine now being able to give an invited talk through a Zoom sort of platform where you get the exposure that you're looking for, you get you can highlight the recognition, but also it only takes up 1 hour of your time, and really the institute can do it in a very cost-effective way. Now, not everything is rosy, that's for sure. There are some negatives that perhaps could be improved to make this technology even more easy to adopt. And the first one is really the inability for body language communication, that personal feel you get when you talk to people face to face. And really these sound like minor things, but trust is built not just by what you say, but how you act and how the person perceives you during that kind of holistic interaction. And at least for now, I find that really lacking in a lot of the Zoom conferences and meetings that I've attended. Secondly, is probably the biggest one, in my opinion, is privacy. As the popularity of Zoom continues to grow, the substandard or suboptimal privacy policies that they've adopted are also coming to the forefront. The ability, for example, for them to keep the data that you transmit between your parties. It's not an encrypted service, so that means that they have access to your video, your screen content, the whiteboards that you write, and they share this with other people for kind of advertising revenue and directed advertising. This is a huge problem in something like academia and medicine, where many of the discussions that we have are either confidential because they're between patients and physicians, or physicians talking about private matters of patients. And in the academia world, of course, many of the things we do are in fact confidential because it's a very competitive space, and really certain things we'd rather not share until they're more mature and further along in their development. So what does that mean? I think it probably means that Zoom has a way to go, or there's an opportunity for a new party or new platform that really takes privacy seriously. Even if it costs a little bit more than Zoom, I think that's something people are willing to pay for. Lastly, one of the cons I've noticed is there's no freebies. When I was an undergraduate student, and still to this day, one of the things that I enjoy that will get me to a seminar is a free coffee or a free cookie during the day. And I'm not going to lie, I've caught myself looking to the back of the room multiple times while I was in a Zoom conference to see if there was any cookies or coffee left, only to realize that I'm in the kind of quiet corner of my house listening to the seminar virtually. So of course it's a minor point, but I know that when they offer these freebies, they're meant to bring in more people to important seminars, and also is a kind of nice gesture to do for students. So it'll be interesting to see if there's new creative ways that we can adopt to really make student life easier using this kind of new platform. So in my opinion, as you probably realized, I think the benefits completely outweigh the cost, and really one of the lasting effects of this pandemic in academia is going to be a massive increase in the use of video conferencing, working remotely, and interacting with our colleagues in a more virtual way. So let me know what you think. Are there any pros and cons I missed? What's your prediction? Are we going to be zooming into the future, or is it something that we're going to be sick of by the time this is over? Put them down below, comment, like, and subscribe, and thanks for watching.